All right, best hour of their day here with Matt O'Keefe. Matt, you've become infamous or famous. I don't really know the difference between those two words in the CrossFit world. In a very short period of time. I don't know if you remember our first interaction at regionals. What was it? What was the first year Matt made it
2000.
to?
Well, he was 2013, but I think my first regional was 2014. So that
Oh,
was yeah, it was in at Reebok in Canton.
yeah, I remember you coming up to me. I was running the thing, and you're like, "Hey, we got a really good guy. He's gonna be good. Can we get some pictures?" And everybody's got a guy that's gonna be really good, right?
Yeah.
Turns out you were more accurate than most people. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Take some pictures of this dude. A few years later, he's the best CrossFitter ever. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks. We have a awesome long history. I consider you a good friend, and it's great to spend some time catching up.
I see the fittest poster behind you. What'd you think of the movie?
I love it. I was lucky enough. We were in London for Sid. Matt competed. Tia came. The boys were there. Heber Mars, and we all sat in a room and got to see it there. The athletes like to see it ahead, and the boys will offer them an opportunity just to comment or if there's any concerns. But it is awesome. It really is. It's there's two things. Like, we've been abstinent for a year, right? That's like an annual. It's almost like Christmas for us. We get to relive the season games, and so we didn't have that the year prior with all the chaos, and so it was really cool to see that and how they portrayed that, which I think they did a fantastic job. And I obviously it's very personal for me, so I got to cry a little bit and get goosebumps and relive some of the past 2 years.
Has there been a time where Matt or Tia or one of your other athletes has been like, cut that? I don't like what I said. I don't like, has a woman been like, I don't like how I look in that picture?
Yeah, I think it's not even that's not exclusive to women. Honestly,
I,
it's and it's yeah. I think in a good way. It's like we're a rising tide, and we all work together. So it's people like Heber and Marston are very cautious. And know that we're all we're in that growth mode, and they work with athletes. So the answer is yes, but I think people might receive that the wrong way, like that's high maintenance. It's I think it's everybody knows we're growing fast, and people can take things different ways. They do their best to make people look really good, because we're all super close and we want to put everybody's best foot forward. But sometimes some a way things are cut or whatever, and can make it sound very different than what was intended to deliver. And nothing's intentional is the point. So it's always like, hey, by the way, it's very rare that, if ever I can think of, that Heber and Marston have had to go back and edit something on their front. But yeah, photos all the time. Like, I look chubby. That's guys and girls, by the way. That's not a girl thing. But it's cool though, because that's where it's come. Like, people are protecting their brands and want to put out quality content that's valuable to people. So I think there's two sides to it. Some people are gonna look at it and be like, oh, that's super high maintenance and annoying. It isn't really. It's cool. People are like really care about the stuff they put out.
Yeah, considering most people retake their Instagram pictures a billion times, to want to have a picture change that's going to be on an iTunes movie and for millions to see, I don't think that's that big of a deal. And speaking of, it's downloaded, and my wife and I have been watching one movie a day while on this quarantine, and the fittest is tonight's movie, so I'm excited for that.
Oh, good. You're gonna enjoy. It's two
I
hours of, like, I sweat through it. It's funny. When we watched it in London, Heber and Marston had obviously put it together and had watched it a bunch before. They do a lot of like observing as people are watching. And it's like the first time, I guess maybe because of where I sit, but in Matt would sit and Tia, I watched it with Tia individually and Matt individually in London. They wouldn't even watch it together because they sort of wanted to be able to like cry or be mad if they didn't like something, but or like ask a question. So anyway, long and short of it is when I first watched it, it was like this the whole time. It's like brings you right back, because that was a riveting event this year. I mean, where I sit with Matt being on his coach's band, I got to kind of like re-ride the roller coaster.
Yeah, I love when the movie comes out because throughout the games, I get seen in bits and pieces while judging. So then the movie comes out and I get to relive it. Starting the day it was released, I'm getting screenshots from my buddies like, there you are, there you are. So
That's
I'm
good.
excited. I'm excited. It's like Find Jay. Now, obviously, with all going on, the sanctionals took a big hit. And you're a huge. How many sanctionals is Live and Loud a part of these days?
We own and operate 5. So we have Wadapalooza, West Coast Classic, Madrid CrossFit Championship, Granite Games, and the Mayan CrossFit Classic, which is in Mexico.
I was just thinking about this. We were at Wadapalooza, I mean, about a month ago. It's crazy what the world has been through. Like you're walking around, shaking hands, hugging people, sweaty, and then flash forward a few weeks later, we're quarantined. It's crazy.
It is because we've talked quite a bit about that. I mean, I was probably 2 weeks ago today we postponed uh West Coast
West Coast,
Classic.
right?
So I was in Miami planning like the day prior, the Tuesday. Well, today's Tuesday. So this day, 2 weeks ago, we were like full bore ahead. The Wednesday we postponed. But we
That's how we know
talked a
you're
little
busy,
bit
by the
about that.
way. That's how we know you're busy. Today's Wednesday.
Oh, it is Wednesday. Okay, so
That's
Wednesday.
that's why you are that's why Matt O'Keefe is the busiest man in CrossFit.
Oh man, sorry about that. Yeah, it's been a chaos. We'll talk a little bit about it. I'm always busy working a lot. It's hasn't been much busier than it's been in the last 10 days because we're doing some cool, fun stuff. But um, we talked a little bit about Waza yesterday. I caught up with Matt. It came up, and I talked with the team a little bit. But man, because it was such an awesome for us as a team, that thing came together. Like I've been in charge and a part of that team now for a couple of years, a little over 2 years, and it's been a lot of work to get where we're at, and we were what our brush and sort of how we wanted it to look, and some of the behind the curtain changes had really started to take course this year. And that it was an awesome event, and you were down there like that. I mean, you saw how many people were there. I mean, it's a freight train movement. People are just loving to come down and spring break and sit, like you said, hug, sweat, and have a good time and party. But it's man, I was so proud of that. And it wasn't even like, man, I podcasted like 8 times. I was on other people's, and we just I mean, good Lord, I talked to thousands of people. Not one even remote thought of this chaos coming our way and what it would look like. And what, fast forward, Sunday, one of our judges passed away. He was super healthy and judged at Wadapalooza, and lost his life on Sunday to coronavirus. So it's crazy that what 10 days even does.
Yeah, I saw that's incredibly sad to see a member of the community, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about. But I just want to say, I've been to many competitions. I've been in all aspects, from competing to judging to a sponsor, and Wadapalooza is by far, in my opinion, the best. I mean, you go to the games, go to Madison, but if I hate to say it because I'm involved with CrossFit, but I would put Wadapalooza right up there with the games, because it's just, the games is great. You got the elite, but what's great about Wadapalooza is you got the elite, and then you got your buddies, and it's just beautiful out. There's water. You guys are running it. Dylan, a good friend for a long time, does a
Yeah.
phenomenal job. His sister Brittany this year was super helpful. I mean, your crew there is great. Obviously, Danny from Seoul, all you guys do a phenomenal job, and I look
Thank you.
forward to going every year. So
Yeah.
if you've
Yeah.
not been,
Thanks.
hopefully this time next year, this is all behind us and we're good. How can you? I've not spoken to anybody about making those decisions to postpone. How did you actually make that decision?
Yeah, it hasn't, I think people, and I've got a lot of great messages, text support. It hasn't been hard to make the decisions because we've just sort of dealt with the facts and tried to be super safe. If you go back to the West Coast Classic decision, because I think we were in the middle of that with the Atlas games really kind of at the the height of it, this thing, snowballing into some chaos over here, and really, all of us in Canada and the United States, at least, starting to think like we're going to be locked down for a bit. But at the time, it's really interesting. The 2 weeks ago today, all we were doing was, what data do we have? And then talk to the CDC, look at what the WHO, World Health Organization, is saying, and then make a call and talk to the venue. And even as late in the game as Tuesday was comparative to our start, which was about 10 days from then, we're like, damn, like we literally had like one person, and they were from Spain, asked for their tickets back, money back, of thousands of tickets we had sold. We had 5 volunteers of like 600 volunteers say, I don't want to come, I'm worried about this. We had one brand of like 100, I think there was between 95 and 100 brands coming, that said, I can't come, or I don't, it wasn't even I don't want to come, it was Wit from London, and it was because the Europe had like another level of chaos already, and they're like, hey, it's just irresponsible for us to bring our entire team there. What if we get stuck in the United States and then can't run the business? So we have this, and then the venue's like charged, like the state's on board, like, you guys are good, and we're sitting here going, geez. And the CDC's like, hey, it's fine, just wash your hands. Yeah. And at that point, it's so
Yeah.
interesting. I think that was 2 weeks ago. So we were like, what like we have to do this, and no matter if there's heat, at least we can get the message out that this is fact-based. Anyway, people received it really well. And this community, it's resilient. Like, I was telling somebody in an interview back that time, like, hey, if a CrossFitter would probably look at this thing like, hey, give me some of it so I can rub it in my cut. Like, that's kind of how the people are wired in our space, and obviously at the time it was like, the perception was, if you're under 50, you're bulletproof on this thing. That's not true now, as we see. I mean, Giancarlo was 41. There's a case in Massachusetts of a 25-year-old that's probably going to pass today. There's nothing they can do about it. So like, the young people are not immune, but yeah, it hasn't been, that was not a hard decision, because it changed really quickly, and it looked like, what, we're just not, we don't know what the next week looks like, and it's getting progressively drastically worse every like hour, but really every 12 hours, it's like a whole, you got to remember 2 weeks ago, it was like a whole new level of chaos every 12 to 24 hours. So we were just like, pull the plug, like, let's just push this thing out, do the right thing. So many people want to come and see this. If anything, the positive silver lining is, especially for a team like mine and ours, is that if you give us some more runway, we'll just make it better. So we pushed it off, and then, each decision along the way, like Madrid, we've postponed. Granite Games, we will postpone by the time this is out today. So, you'll hear that. And then Mexico, we are working with the venue on what an alternate date might look like. I mean, that's the 4th of July weekend, 3rd to the 5th. We're going to leave it there for now. Because, quite frankly, if there's some light the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks, it's reasonable to say we could run an event at the beginning of July, but I'm not optimistic, or even really thinking about what the next 2-3 weeks look like. I think we just need to sort of take it as it comes. But if there's some sort of light, and what we do as a country, or a continent at that point, is effective from mitigating the spread, and we can do things in the beginning of July, we'll run it. And I think we'll try to get Granite Games in July, and we'll just kind of take it piece by piece. But it's hard. But quite frankly, at this point, it's like, those are cool platforms. Especially when you talk about our Granite Games as a 9-year-old property like that. That people, there's a community there that is as deep rooted as Waza, as the games, as CrossFit. It's an extension, right? Those people, it's really important that we have runways so that people can prepare, because that's the Boston Marathon for most of those people. That's the New York City Marathon. They want to train, they want to know when it's going to be, they know how to train, they've been doing it for 9 years, they want to do the qualifier. It's an experience. It's why a lot of them CrossFit, it's why they train 12 months. So we have to remember those things in all our decisions. And I think because of who we are, where we've been, and our involvement for as long as it's been in the space, you talk about guys like Dylan, we get it. Like, we love CrossFit too. We like to compete. So we know that these are careful, hard decisions, and they affect a lot of people. Like, you're a judge at the games. You look forward to that every year. Like, that's a big, I know you adore it. You do a great job at it, so that's, they, like us, have to think of you, and, what's the effect in your travel and scheduling, what else will be going on. There's so many things to think about. And all I know is we're making really careful, strong decisions to make sure that all parties, volunteers, partners, athletes, are all sort of able to, shift and be a part the way that they best want to be a part of those things.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. You're taking care of really the country. You're doing the right thing for the country. And I think, yeah, like you've mentioned, something that's overlooked. I got really sad for the college community. I grew up wrestling, and I can't imagine what it was like to have your senior season cut short. I mean, that's all they train for in CrossFit. Matt and Tia will survive. They'll keep training. But for some people, that's it. They're done competing after that. And, you just saw the Olympics got pushed back a year.
Yep.
It's like you're trying to peak. You're working so hard for years and years to peak at this date, only to get it pushed back. At least they know in advance, but so many moving parts, I'm sure. And I think that's a lot of what we want to talk about right now. One thing you alluded to is how strong and supportive the CrossFit community is. And I want to hear about what you're launching. I know you have a big call that happened yesterday, but I want to hear about where things are going and what you guys are working on for the CrossFit community and the world at large.
Yeah, thanks. I think, our Granite Games qualifier, so we call that the IOQ because there was other IOQ2, there was, 3 or 4 other events that participated in it. So there's just like a hub qualifier for multiple sanctional events. It was supposed to start Monday, this past Monday. We had postponed it 2 weeks, and our immediate thought was like, hey, this isn't low-hanging fruit. We've already had quite a bit of people register for it, thousands. Why don't we just shift all that money to donation at this point, 100%? And why don't we then put that out in the hopes that, maybe, 20, 30, 40,000 people sign up, because it's not far-fetched. I mean, we know the Open's done 400,000. We know Waza's done tens of thousands, depending on the year, 30, 40,000 at times. So it's just, we were looking to do the right thing because the immediate reaction and I think impact to us who are CrossFitters was, gym owners sort of panicked a little bit and freaked out, like, oh geez, the reality of this was setting in, that like, geez, my gym's going to be closed and people might not want to pay. And we've tried to send that message and urge, like, hey, if you're able to continue to pay your membership, like, you want that gym to be there when this is done. So that's going to kind of be what is required to help that. Talk to a lot of affiliate owners, and I'm like, man, like, the gym saved me, really, truly, from me. Like, and I know that's not the case for everybody, but quite frankly, anybody who's been in this space for a bit and is called a CrossFitter, the gym's played a pretty big part in their lives. It's got them well, or taught them discipline, how to handle adversity when suffering. I mean, that's such a big understated piece of what we do, but think about relationships. And then I look at industry. Like, I was an insurance salesman when I walked in that door, and, now I'm running a sports marketing agency in Miami with, events and managing athletes and working with brands. And what I do, I get to do because I walked in a CrossFit gym. So, and at the time I did that, I had a lot going on in my life. I was about less than a year sober, and, sort of needed an addiction and some sort of, something to latch onto. And, at the time, it just sort of was like a perfect storm for me, and it provided me a lot. I brought my kids up in that gym. So the immediate was like, shit, like, how can we watch these gyms shut their doors or struggle? We've got a big platform. Let's raise money. And that kind of morphed, or, Dylan and I were, quickly running, like, let's do this. This is easy. Just shifting some focus, and we'll get all the athletes. Maybe we'll do a live announcements. We'll make workouts for people to do in their living room. this will be badass. We talked to Ben and Shane, Ben Bergeron, Shane Orr, Tia's husband, program workouts for the living room. And like we were running. And what really dawned on us over like, I'd say like the last week was, we weren't thinking wide enough. I think we had and we still do with this thing, have a really big goal, a micro goal to support gyms and then even people and efforts, related to the virus. You think of, we're now affected with some deaths and, can we support families? We've talked about scholarship in Giancarlo's name to support judges, professionalizing judges, travel for judges. But, the lion's share, the big focus being, hey, gyms in general, we can really support gyms and, it's something, whether it's, a CrossFit affiliate or a studio, people use the gym for so many things, whether it's training for your sport or training for life. So the long and short of it is it's morphed into this idea that we think we can get people to move to, we can introduce the world to what we do. Cause I think there's nothing more relevant there's nothing more universal right now than doing an air squat or a burpee. It doesn't matter if you speak Chinese, French, Spanish, or English. You can lay down and get up. You can squat. It doesn't matter language, religion, or location. Awesome. We have these awesome tools like YouTube and Instagram, where instead of thinking about 2, 3, 4 million, I think we can really inspire billions of people to move. Like we're united under one thing right now for the first time in I think history, which is we're all stuck in our damn house and can't do much. That's universal. Doesn't matter where you are for the most part. And I think over the next 2 weeks, that could truly be the case with some pretty strong regulation on that everywhere. So we want to move people. We want to unite people in movement. That's really it. And we think we can raise a lot of money in the process. And we think, we can impact people's mental and physical health through this process, which is really, the primary goal, the important piece, and achieve some cool stuff and let people know how badass our community is in the process. Cause I think we all have a little chip on our shoulder about that. And I think, we get some interesting PR in the market about, dangerous, rough, like, I think it's a good time for us to show like what you and I might be doing right now to get through this, which is I'm just doing burpees and I'm lucky enough to have rowers and bikes and stuff, but I'm not, doing anything my mom can't do or my neighbor can't do. And that's CrossFit. Right. So we're going to try to change the world. I think, that's the goal.
Well, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, for the first time, my wife and I are working out in our extra bedroom. We have a handful of dumbbells and kettlebells. Back home, we've got a whole setup, but right now we're limited. And I think one thing I've said to box owners is when we get out of this, this is going to open a lot of people's eyes to what they really need in the fitness world. Sure, the Matt and Tia of the world on the poster need to do a few hours, but I think a lot of people are going to realize, hey, this thing is really just about moving for 20 or 30 minutes a day, getting me off my couch and making me a healthier human being. So with all that being said, how can people find out more about this? How can they help? How can they spread the word? And I
Yeah.
know a
So,
lot of that's still to come.
yeah, no, it will. So that's a great question. We're going to have a website. We're going to build social handles. I don't think you're going to have a hard time figuring out what's going on because our plan is once about, today's done is to have, touched, yesterday we had a call with like 500 brands, and it's agnostic. We have competing brands like Ramwad and Gowad saying, I'm all in, let's work together. It's beautiful like that. And that's the way we want it. Because it's not about anything but 100% of, this stuff going to the people that need it, gyms that need it. So, I think, we're planning a pretty impactful launch with brands, athletes, media outlets, influencers, that will be sanctioned events, which are, cast a very wide net. We're all going to post at once. And, if I think like try to virtually shake, social with it and, and like a little bit of a fire festival approach. Trust me, we're not trying to achieve anything or not achieve things that Fire Festival did, but we're, I don't have anything direct now, but trust me, if you go to, Matt, Tia, any of the sanctioned events, Katrin, you name an athlete that we work with or don't. Rich, I've spoken to him. He's going to get involved. Josh Bridges, we're going to talk to him all today. You'll know what's going on. You'll be able to figure it out. But it'll be called United in Movement. We're going to go 24 hours live starting Friday, the 3rd of April, I think is that Friday. That night into Saturday night, we'll create a fun platform for our space, by the way. So, in the general, being general, but also, creating a fun week for people that love to CrossFit, right? So Ben Bergeron and Shane Orr have written workouts that we can generalize, but we're also going to make fun for people that CrossFit and want to CrossFit and can do it in their living room. And I saw them last night. The workouts are frigging amazing. And we're going to put a leaderboard up so that CrossFitters, people that want to compete, can compete as well. We'll do announcements. So like Friday night, workout will be announced and some athletes will do it so you can see what it looks like, sort of open announcement-esque. From there, we'll just continue to come live on a daily basis. So that 24 hours will also be a fundraising opportunity. We'll do like a YouTube telethon. And then your registration, you'll have an ability to donate. And then every night we'll go live for a couple hours with an announcement of a new workout and give, people opportunities to, show the world how to move and inspire them to move. So it might be this hardcore open announcement with the workout that we'll do and breathe fire through. And maybe we'll have somebody in the space put the general public through a boiled down version or get people to move. We're in the almost perfectly fleshed out phase, but that's the structure. It's going to be 7 days of fun and fitness and fundraising.
That's awesome. And I think for me, the struggle is just finding the workouts. My wife sifts through Instagram, pulls out the ones she likes, which are often not the ones I like maybe include some outdoor running or lots of, movements that I'm not good at. So it'd be nice to just have something that I can follow. I think that's kind of what the community is missing. A lot of boxes went online and that's great. But for a lot of people, it's just like, hey, just tell me what to do tomorrow and I can do that. So I'm looking forward to that. So basically, if you're listening to this show, most likely you follow somebody that's going to post something is what you're saying.
I'll send it to you. You can.
Yeah, well, let us help you as well.
Yeah, you'll have the info. You're going to hop on the call with us today to understand it a little better. So, yeah, people will trust me. They'll, if you follow me, you'll be able to see it. If you follow Matt Fraser, you'll be able to see it. If you follow Wadapalooza, you'll be able to see it. Anywhere that is attributed to what we do, I would assume brands, all the brands are in. We had such an uplifting call with brands yesterday. Every call inspires me to another level and clears my delusion on this. I think you have to be delusional to be successful no matter what. I think that's a prerequisite. But it's the clarity is coming through the, and I believe in it and I'm pitching it hard to people and I do believe in it. And I think that's helpful for them to invest because they believe in me and us. But, after that call with the brands yesterday, it was just the next level, like hundreds of emails and texts like, let's go. You're so on point. We're with you. Thank you for doing this. Somebody has to do this. Like, it's complete compliance is my point. Like I have not had one person, and we've talked to hundreds of people say, I don't know, I got something else going on, or I'm going to do my own thing, or like that, and I don't like it. Literally everybody's just said 100%, what do you need? So that's where I think it won't be hard to find because everyone's going to be in on it and it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, it's one of those times where you can't really make an excuse. People keep reaching out, and like I did to you for this podcast, I'm like, hey, I know we're all busy. Don't get me wrong, but I also know you're home.
Yeah, so, I'm happy to. By the way, don't ever feel bad about reaching out. I'm always happy to do these things, especially with you. So,
well, appreciate that. I hope people find it. Fern and I are going to take an active role in it. I'll talk to you offline about what we can do. But I want to switch gears to a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever asked you this. You walk into, what was the first CrossFit you walked into?
So Northshore CrossFit in Danvers, Mass. So Dave
That's
and Tara
Plumate?
Picardi. Dave and
Oh,
Tara Picardi.
okay.
They were
Sure.
like affiliate 31 globally.
Yeah, they came off of Ben's box. Did they come off of New England or
No,
Milford?
no. So he trained with Neil Thompson at Boston, and
Boston,
now
right?
Neil runs his gym. So now Neil runs CrossFit, Northshore CrossFit, because Neil sold his gym to James in Austin.
James, yeah.
So
So
but Dave trained with James at CrossFit Boston before James ended up out to CrossFit New England. So it's kind of like the beginning stages of this, you know?
you have a funny story. Before you did that with Matt, in 2013, Neil did that. 2009, the first year there were these sectionals, Neil and I ran them together along with David Osorio from South Brooklyn. We ran it in the parking lot of Albany CrossFit. And he comes up to
And
me,
there,
brings me this young James Hobart, looked like he's in 11th grade, like late for geometry class. And he's like, this kid's gonna win. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, what is Neil talking about? Lo and behold, he wins.
did he
So
win that sectional?
he won, and I mean, he took off ever since then. I mean, he went
Yeah,
from that to the championship team with New England, going back again with other teams. But
he's a
so my
freak.
question,
Yeah,
he still is, right? My question
yeah,
to you: you walk into North Shore as someone that's maybe just beginning their recovery,
yeah. Well, I
right?
was like a year sober, but
So
it was just, it was time to get fit. Yeah,
a year sober, um, a pretty steady job as an insurance salesman.
yeah.
What When was the light bulb moment for Matt O'Keefe that was like, I'm getting out of this and I'm going headlong into this? Like, there must have been a period of time between that and you walking up to me with Matt Frazier.
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, it's one of those scenarios where, when I was a kid, I fell in love with baseball, and, I've fallen in love with golf and football, like whatever it was that I continued to, undyingly apply my time to. I literally walked in there, did my baseline. Coach Raff, I'll never forget, couldn't do 10 pull-ups at the end with a purple band or the green band, like
Which is pretty thick,
the
right?
thickest band, and was like pretty much like, okay, that's a challenge. And I was ungodly sore off of that. Came in for my next workout, and it was 7 minutes of burpees for 12.1. And
Oh, so that
so
was right. Okay.
it's 12.1, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
right around then. Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
workout doing it.
So that was literally the time I walked in. And for me, in my history, I think it was a beautiful way for me to be introduced to CrossFit, because I played Division I sports, and I like, no matter what, like, then I got out of college and I immediately transferred that to, how I golfed. I tried to, qualify for, amateur events, the US amateur. I took my golf as far as I could at the time. So, I've always like applied my life to some sort of competitive sport, and at the time, I still loved golf. And by the way, at the time I was still competing a ton. I was like, maybe I'll get like better and stronger and fitter and hit the ball longer and be better for golf. I was hooked, to the point where, Dave Picardi, the owner, who became a really good friend, was literally like the biggest challenge. And I think you as a gym owner know this, like early on when people were coming in, the biggest challenge was like, how do we make them work out less?
Hmm.
Because people were just like, I want to do it twice a day, volumes. And back then too, right? 13, 12, Rich is prominent and everybody's looking at the volume he's doing. Nobody knows anything about this as a sport. So everybody's like, okay, I just need to work out all
Yeah, more is
day.
better.
Yeah. And so, that I was hooked is the point. And I competed at ECC on a team that first year that I was at in Boston, where Rich came, and I was in the heat with him, with my team, so I was like sort of chasing that side of it. And then, um, I loved it. And, I'm entrepreneurial. I was in a family business, kind of, was having a hard time taking a bump to do something on my own. I, bridged that with, some very good friends hired me after, I moved from the auto business, the family business, to insurance. And I honestly, and it phenomenal people, phenomenal business, a company that I work for, but I was like dying inside selling insurance, because I just wasn't passionate about the product. So it wasn't good for me, and it probably wasn't good for them. I mean, I was doing a good job, but I was
Do
In
you
my
have the,
mind,
by the way, do you have the coronavirus?
no, my throat's dry. I literally been like talking for 15 hours a day. So
I just want
I
to
don't want
make
anybody
sure.
to,
I don't know if I could get
if I
it like
do,
this.
nobody else is getting it because I've been stuck in my house for 5 days. But you know, I was in my mind underperforming I wasn't proud of myself in terms of what I was doing. It was time. Like, and it was like not, I wasn't gaining or using the stones to like get out and bet on myself. And the CrossFit gym inspired me to do that. I just saw, people, whether I went to these like little competitions and these little companies and people were just like happy and, they were like, oh, things are going great. My business is growing. And like, sort of now me being a consumer in the market, seeing these companies and like, I can do this. And so I started Redline. I was, a name that I thought was cool for the space. And, I dove in like I do everything, like, probably too much. And it was great. Redline was a huge success quick. And I think,
By the way, those are still some of my favorite shorts. My wife, every time I put them on, is like, you got to throw those out. But they're just
don't, I can replace them. I still have some, trust me.
but they're just so comfortable. Like,
They
and
are.
you sweat in them and it just like falls. It's like a bathing suit almost, so like you don't get all stinky.
Those are my bathing suits. I absolutely, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was that really, that moment, that brand, that experience just convinced me that, no matter what happens, no matter how things go, I'm always going to be okay. So it was, the gamble on myself, the bet on myself there worked from no matter what the long term result of that was going to be, I learned that how to start, how to do it, how to, restart, and it's not that complex and it's just passion, doing things you're interested in and believing in yourself. And the rest for me was history on that. Like, that's how I started being an agent. But you saw me, in that 13, so that was the 14 regional, that was sort of like the coming out party for Redline at the time. Like, we went to the event set up and, Matt was wearing the clothing. Matt was burst on the scene. Everybody on the floor was wearing our clothing. And like, I literally, like, I came out of that, like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. This brand's popping. People around the world are now ordering on the website. And, that was, that weekend that you're talking about was really, I think, the moment that I like really realized that, I'm in this for the long haul. Like, and even at the time it was like, there was a lot going on with Matt and I. Like, Matt was getting interest from brands and he was asking me the question. I was not even, close to his manager or agent at the time. That's just a relationship that developed properly over time. And, but, quickly then I just started doing a little of that for him. And I believe it was Granite Games, funny enough, now that we own and operate it, where I met Brooke Entz, and Matt competed. And she had said to him, like, he had done his Nike deal at the time, I believe. And I was able and fortunate enough to be a part of that. And she was like, hey man, like, who's doing all this stuff for you? Like, you got some good stuff going on. And Matt has been like my best salesman. And he was like, dude, just talk to this guy over here. He'll take care of you. And born my agent career, I born my agent career with him, but that was when it became, so, a viable business, was that he was, people would call him and respected what he was doing as a brand and who he was associating with. And he'd just say, listen, I don't deal with this shit. Go call O'Keefe, and, so that grew and, here we are today. It's been crazy. 2 years ago, I joined forces with these guys in Miami, Loud and Live, and we got a bunch of events and we're having a blast,
I hope everybody that's listening is taking from this just some of these small steps. Is, right now you've got nothing else to do. You can be working on yourself. Like, I think something you said that I really try to push people. I always refer to it when it comes to like a breakup. We've all been in a breakup where like, my life is over. I'm never going to recover. I'll never find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. I'm like, you got 40 years of a track record showing me you're going to be okay.
True.
Why all of a sudden do you feel like this trend is going to change? And something you said in there is, as an entrepreneur, I think one thing we always cling to is like, we're going to be okay and we're going to figure it out. And sometimes it just takes a head down and grind. of course, attaching yourself to the right person at the right time never hurts. One thing I remember from that specific regional, this is when I was like, okay, O'Keefe isn't crazy. There was a chipper. I forget what it was, but I remember watching Matt run across the field, looked up at the camera and smiled. I don't know if you remember that moment. Like, I just vividly remember it. And I'm like, that dude's going to be really freaking good. And I think that was
I
the year
agree.
he came in second to Rich.
It is.
Um,
Yeah, that was his
yeah.
first year at the games. I do remember that moment. I remember a lot of that
It
there.
was a long chipper, right? It was like 50 reps or something. And he was crossing the field and he looked and there's that big camera at Reebok. And I
Mhm.
can see him because I was up close smiling, and then behind him see the video of him smiling, and I was like, "That's an epic moment right there."
Yeah, there was, I think, like dips and burpees and stuff like over
Yes,
the box. But yeah, it's yeah, I do remember. Yeah, that's I would say in support of what you're saying is that, you know, and I've been asked this a lot lately, is, you know, I've never focused on any, you know, what the accomplishment is. So some people might say like the goal is financial or to achieve something, you know, whether it's recognition, notoriety. You know, certainly my position's always been the behind the curtain. I've become more public lately. Obviously, you know, I'm getting, you know, the athletes I work with wave my flag, and I'm very grateful for that. It isn't necessary, but, you know, obviously with the events. So I just, you know, I've always sort of, it's always been about the work is my point. And I think it is even for when you look at guys like Matt and Tia and Katrin and, you know, all those guys, it's just, you know, they focus so much in the day and the work and what they can control. And I've learned a lot about that with them, through them, you know, us together, that it's the same for us in business. It's just, you know, one foot in front of the other, do the work hard, control what you can control on the day. You know, don't get caught up in, I want to be famous, or I want to make a lot of money, or, you know, I want people to recognize my work, because those are all blocks and, hurdles to that get in the way of, you know, the micro approach that needs to be taken to growing a brand or doing, you know, good work for whatever movement you're involved in. You know, our team, you know, everybody we work with at Loud and Live Sports buys into that. It's really important to me and to my business partners. And you know, that's, you know, like Wadapalooza isn't about me. It isn't about Dylan. It isn't about Nelson and Marco, my partners. Wadapalooza is about Wadapalooza and that spirit and, you know, that fitness community life, you know, and it's what we buy into. And I think that's my point is that entrepreneurs are those that are entrepreneurial in spirit and looking to take that bump. It's, you know, one foot in front of the other, you know, start the snowball with the, you know, start the snowball with, you know, the small snowball, and just work daily on growing that and rolling it. And, you know, work hard, you know, it's cliche, HWPO. Matt, that's Matt's thing, right? That's true. It's just work your ass off, control what you can control daily. And that shit pays off in the end. I promise you. It doesn't, like, no work, no deed like that goes unnoticed and unrewarded.
yeah, I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up. You nailed it. Hard work pays off, and do the work. And I love what you're saying. Control what you can control. If you look at any great entrepreneur, and most likely if you're listening to this, someone you look up to, they all give out the same advice for a reason. Whether it's, I've heard it from you, I've heard it from Ben, I've heard it from some of the best in the world. And, you know, Matt O'Keefe in 2013 walked into Northshore CrossFit, couldn't do pull-ups with a green band, and here he is hanging out representing the fittest on earth, you know, and doing so much good stuff. It's an honor to have you on the show, as always. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm look, hopefully you get over the coronavirus or whatever you got going on.
Don't spread that rumor, please. I'm fine. I'm fine. I literally have, I for the last 5 days, 6 days, because this idea continues to snowball. It's been me 15 hours a day doing this, you know, telling that story over and over again, talking to people, trying to get people involved in this. So I'm pretty sure I'm about, like, you know, Saturday night at Waza where I can't speak Sunday at Waza. So that's about where I'm at. My voice is about to crack. So
All
I
right.
feel
Well,
great.
I'll let you go. I'll talk to you offline. Fern and I, speaking on behalf of Fern, we'll do everything we can. You know, we're obviously big part of the CrossFit affiliates and want to help out. So whatever
Great.
we can do, we will do. And thanks for everything you're doing for the community. I think this is, like a lot of people realizing, it's a great opportunity to feel sorry for yourself, or it's a great opportunity to get out there and make a difference.
Well, thank you, and thanks for all you do. Keep charging, dude. And yeah, we'll be in touch. I'd love to have you guys jump in and support and help raise some money with us.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day, and thanks again to our special guest. We appreciate all you guys do for us with Best Hour of Their Day when it comes to sharing our posts on Instagram, when it comes to subscribing to us on YouTube, when it comes to the constant feedback. We are grateful and we appreciate it. We are trying to build a community based on coaching development and becoming the best version of yourself. And it goes without saying that we couldn't do without all of you. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Season 1 of Dropping In is out. We are getting tremendous feedback and we'd love for you to check it out. Leave us a comment on there. Head over to our Instagram. Give us a follow. Like our pictures. Feel free to share anything that resonates with you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback for us, please don't hesitate. Email us, besthouroftheirday@gmail.com. Thanks again. Until the next episode, we hope you've had the best hour of your day.